Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. We're going to have a mega off-season following the World Championship this year. The Esports World Cup is coming up shortly after that, only a couple of months after Black Ops 6 launches, but the big question is, what is the CDL going to look like next season? Over the last several months there has been so much drama. The big Scumper and Hex lawsuit, the major changes confirmed by the CDL to the franchise agreements for next season and beyond. But what about the number of teams in the league? 12 is not the best number. We've been hoping for 16 teams now for some time, but whether that's going to happen this year is a matter for debate. Octane says as far as he is aware, expansion is not happening this year again in the Call of Duty League. Possibly this could be because some of these poverty organizations in the CDL are going to get sold rather than all of the expansion happens at once. Very much intrigued your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty that we have to dive into today. First of all, some interesting bugs going around at the moment that you guys might have seen, where in Search and Destroy, sometimes Warzone money is dropping on the ground. And as a result of this, if you pick up the Warzone money, you get some progression towards the streak. So the European challengers have decided to GA the cruise missile because it's possible to get a streak with far fewer kills than 6 because there's Warzone money dropping on the ground that you can pick up. So it's an absolute mess. It's a classic COD moment, this, I'm not gonna lie. There's some debate on what's causing the bug, whether it's easily resolvable, whether it's something that, you know, is gonna affect the CDL games. I don't know if you guys remember this, it just came to mind. Back in World War II, for St. Patrick's Day, because Call of Duty loves doing like big St. Patrick's Day stuff usually, they had, during World War II, a leprechaun, I don't know if you guys remember this, that was running around on the grounds in, I think it was in pubs it was happening, but for some reason it would sometimes spawn up in custom games. There was like this tiny little leprechaun that was sprinting around the map, and if you shot it enough times and actually killed it, you would get full streaks. I'm pretty sure that was the reward. And it was in pubs, just for a bit of fun, right? And fair enough, no problem. But in custom games, sometimes the leprechaun was also spawning in. So it was completely breaking the game, because people would be trying to run around and shooting this leprechaun thing in a competitive setting. It's almost like catching the snitch, right, in like Harry Potter or whatever, in Quidditch, that's what it's called. So it was kind of like those type of vibes, and you just couldn't make some of this stuff up. And to be fair, that was Sledgehammer back then, wasn't it? And it's Sledgehammer today, coming up with another absolute masterclass. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. A couple of stats to go through. This I thought was really interesting. Kind of annoyed me a little bit that it wasn't in order. Like we could have put these in number order, right? But yeah, whatever. It didn't annoy me that much. These are the best performing players per map in the game so far. So this isn't just like, you know, hardpoint, search and destroy, control. This is on the entire map. How do you do? Some of these I think are quite surprising actually. So, well, a couple of FaZe guys here, obviously. Simp has the highest 6-star KD with the 1.24. They're all in the 1.25s and above, pretty much, apart from Simp actually here. HyDra is Cell with a 1.25. Of course, that's search and that's control. HyDra dominates invasion with a 1.26. Actually, incredibly impressive. This one, I think, especially just because of the way the map is, and HyDra being, you know, an SMG. Although, to be fair, he does use the MCW a lot on this map, as does Pred on Subbase. But I think it does go to show a little bit that, you know, these guys are kind of built different. Pred on Subbase especially has a 1.31. Drazah on Karachi, though, might be the most impressive on here, apart from what we're going to talk about with ReeaL in a second, because Drazah's at a 1.28 on Karachi, a map that is played all the time in all of the game modes, and, you know, is a map that he's just been absolutely dominating on lately. So very impressed by that. Cell, though, I mean, hang on a second. ReeaL is considered to be a map that should be SMG dominated, right? Like, it's a close quarter map, but I think there is some correlation really between how well the ARs tend to do on a map such as ReeaL and even Vista, and how well the team is doing, because, you know, going in, you'd have thought, wow, Simp and aBeZy, they're going to dominate ReeaL, which is kind of true. I mean, they've been ridiculously undefeated on ReeaL, but Cellium individually is just finding ways to get so many kills on that one, and then it's aBeZy on Vista, actually, with a 1.26. Impressive, because, of course, the only player not to be on a top 4 team, and there's no Toronto guys here, which is maybe interesting that Scrappy isn't on one of these. But let's talk about the possibility of CDL expansion, right? Because this is a topic that goes around every single year. Obviously, in the first year of the CDL, we had 12 teams. The thought was, well, for Cold War, are we going to get to 16? I think everybody knows 16 is a better number for the league. There's so much more you can do. You can do 4 groups of 4. You can do 2 divisions of 8 teams each. You can make it so that you don't have to start teams in a loser's bracket. 12 just isn't a great great number. It's better than 11, because we thought it was going to be 11 right at some point, because we thought some of these teams were going to dip out of there. Better than 13 or 14. But, you know, 12 doesn't really split in the way that you'd like it to. We have to invite 8 teams to champs and 4 don't make it. 8 teams make winners, 4 don't. It's all a bit of a mess, to be perfectly honest. 16 would be better, and also I think better for the community in general. There has been some debate. Is 16 teams actually better? Because, you know, let's say you added 4 more rosters to the league. Would they be any good? Would it be more piss slamming from the top teams against the bottom teams? Maybe that is true in some parts. I will say that when we had 4 versus 4 back in, you know, 16 teams, let's say in World War II, out of the 16 teams, there were probably 14 pretty competitive teams and 2 teams that were pretty terrible. And I think it might be quite similar today if this occurred yet again. But I also think that even if that is true, that the disparity in the league would be greater if the format was better. If we didn't have all these, you know, boring online qualifiers most of the time, then it would actually, you know, it was more tournament based, even the online stuff. I think it would make things an awful lot better. But Octane has to say this on expansion.
Are there additional teams coming next year, and what will the CDL layout be? I don't think there's any expansion next year, and the format's still up in the air. I've heard some pretty good things, though. As far as I know, anyway, I've heard some pretty positive things. But there is no expansion.
So as far as Octane's aware, he doesn't believe expansion is coming, and this is also the understanding that I have as well as it stands, that expansion is unlikely for the new season, which is kind of surprising in the sense that you might have expected it given the recent announcements, right? So the franchise structure is effectively gone in some sense. They confirmed, you know, several weeks ago now, all the franchise fees will be returned to the teams, and therefore, you know, do they really own anything anymore? There's some speculation onto exactly what the new arrangements are going to be, whether the teams like effectively tell the league, okay, we want to keep our spot, we're going to pay some sort of, you know, fee to make that happen for the next couple of years, and then potentially they still do own something of value that they can therefore potentially sell. But let's be real, right? Some of these organizations at the bottom of the standings here, Vegas, Ravens, Gorillas, especially those 3, have kind of been poverty organizations. I mean, Paris have been a poverty org since day 1. Ravens have been a poverty org since day 2, probably like year 2 effectively. They started to go substantially downhill, and then this year they tried to host an event and it didn't happen. And then Gorillas have gone, you know, poverty org since what day? Like basically year 4, when, you know, Cronky decided, okay, this ain't gonna work, we just want to get out of here. But they've still been forced to field the roster for now. So this, I think, is the problem with expansion. I do believe, my understanding is, there is lots of interest from multiple organizations to get into the esport right now, which is maybe might surprise many of you, but I think it actually does make sense just because of what an exciting esport the Call of Duty I think is. Obviously, I'm kind of biased, but also in North America, like there's lots of reasons why COD makes sense as an esport, and there is lots of interest from teams. There's no doubt in my mind about that. The question is whether they can actually make this work, and whether for the league side, if you have 3 organizations wanting to get out of here, then it's a little bit more challenging to bring in 4 more organizations as well, especially when everything needs like league approval, right? So, you know, let's say you look at a team like the Paris Legion, they have now got their money back in a sense. They paid, well, they didn't pay 25 million, but they paid something of the 25 million they were meant to be paying. Let's say they paid 2.5 million or 5 million or whatever the teams actually paid before the franchise payments got pushed back because of the pandemic, and then they're now never collecting them, and now they're actually going to give them back to the teams. So for Paris, it's like, or for Vegas as it is nowadays, it's like, okay, well done, you've got your money back, and you've cashed in some money for the YouTube deal. Maybe now is the time to sell the spots. Maybe that's the way out. Gorillas, surely they want to sell their spot. I think they've made it quite clear they wanted to do so before, and now, you know, there potentially is buyers available now that the money's back. Because, you know, let's say an organization was looking to buy Gorillas last off season, why would you do it when the spot is not worth the $25 million that they have potentially paid for it? Now the situation is clearer, right? The money's come back. You know, there isn't really a clear valuation on the spot, and therefore there's potentially a deal there to be done. Ravens, I would say, would be in a similar boat as well in terms of these, you know, poverty organization categories. And who knows who else might get involved as well? Is there a chance that some of these other organizations are struggling financially, don't really see Call of Duty as the way to go, and they're looking to get out of there as well? It is certainly possible. So that would be my theory on this, that this off-season, I'm at least hoping we see some sort of changes in ownership. I just don't think it's going to be expansion, because I think before expansion, we're probably going to get the teams that are really interested buying out an existing spot. I mean, that would make more sense to me, but I don't know what you guys think in the comments below. I don't know how that's going to happen either. Like, are we going to get Legion get bought out by somebody else? Are we going to get, you know, let's say, as I said, Ravens or potentially Gorillas bought out by another organization? What does that organization do? Do they come in and have to choose a city? Do they take over the existing city? Does the league say, all right, we're not going to bother with the city stuff anymore? There are just so many questions. And I was hoping that by now and over the coming months, we would have more answers to these questions, and maybe we will at some point. But I think that maybe this offseason, in terms of expansion or, you know, new organizations, is going to be maybe less interesting than it might otherwise have been. But I did just want to look at some of the organizations that could get involved. I don't know how many of these are actually interested. Of course, OpTic is still here, FaZe is still here, Envoy is still here in the form of OpTic Texas under Dallas and all this. Luminosity is still here, effectively under now the Seattle Surge. But this is Black Ops 3, you know, any chance to mention Black Ops 3, I'm going to take it with both hands. And here we are with some of the teams in the North American League back then. So you've got teams like Rise Nation. They've made it quite clear they want to get back involved. Complexity, that's a big one. TSM are quite widely known. They've been looking to get back involved as well. These were just, for example, the teams at that year's World Championship. Cloud9, of course, were involved that season. Team Liquid, many of you guys may remember, were also involved at the early part of the Black Ops 3 season. Some of these organizations, of course, no longer exist, but some of them most certainly still do. And there is interest in the league, no doubt. I mean, you were talking about Vitality, teams like that could potentially get back involved. So I guess really there's two parts of the puzzle here, right? It's first of all, are we going to see teams like Gorillas sell their spot? Because that's what they said they were going to do now effectively for some time, and now is surely in all domains the perfect opportunity to do so. There's interest from parties trying to come in. You know, the franchise structure has been cleared up in effect over the last couple of months. Surely now is the time. But, you know, realistically, do we have 7 organizations ready to come in right here, right now? 3 of which to buy out existing spots from the teams I mentioned, and then 4 of which to expand the league? Probably not, let's be real, and that would be a lot to happen in one off-season, and there's plenty else happening in this one off-season. So very much interested your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Last night, I'm Ubering home after the watch party, so I'm Ubering home, I call my Uber, I'm beat, I'm not gonna lie, I'm mentally just taxed. I've been sitting in front of a camera for 13 hours, so I'm just like, oh, I gotta get home. I get an Uber Black on the company because I've had a long stream day. I'm like, I gotta ride in some comfort right now. Usually I get an X or a comfort. Tonight I was like, I'm gonna treat myself and I'm gonna get an Uber Black. Yo, the Uber driver that I got was so bad. So unbelievably bad. I thought that they were drunk. Have y'all ever had an Uber where you're like sitting in the back seat and you're like looking, I was looking over the chair the whole time. Bro, this lady that I got, she was going 50 miles per hour. I thought she was drunk. I'm not going to lie. I reported her after. It was that bad. I'm not even trying to be funny. She was going 50 on the tollway, swerving the whole time. I tried to tell her I want to get out of the car. Like, I told her, let me out of the car. I would like you to pull over. Please let me out. She didn't speak any English at all. Any English. And so I just stuck it out. Dude, I was sitting back there fucking tweaking for 35 minutes. Dude, it was so fucking scary and bad. Bro, there were people passing her down the tollway the whole time. Because whenever you're coming home from the office, for me, you jump on the tollway basically immediately, and you're on the tollway for 30 minutes. She was going 50 to 60 the whole way home, swerving. There were cars honking at her. Cars were honking at her. Cars were flashing their high beams. 4 different cars honked or flashed their high beams at her on the way home. I was fucking tweaking. And then I got home and I called the cops and I was like, listen, like, yo, she might be drunk. If you guys see her or gave her the license plate, like, yo, she might be drunk. I hope that she was just tired and I hope she got off the fucking road. Fed Scump? I mean, bro, that's something you don't play around with, though. I mean, dude, you're not just in danger. You're not just endangering yourself. You're endangering other people on the road as well. So I felt like, low-key, I felt bad calling the cops. I don't want her to go hurt someone else on the road. Like, you know, like, and I was talking to Iz about it, and maybe she wasn't drunk. Maybe she wasn't drunk. I don't know. I didn't smell alcohol on her. Maybe she was just really tired. Maybe she was just a really bad driver. But dude, it was actually a really scary 30 minutes. Like, really scary. And I mean, dude, I tried to get out of the car, so that's how you know it was bad. And I've never done that before.